Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about A Quiet Place Part 2 because I just got the opportunity to watch it in theaters back to back with the first one, which, if you cannot tell, it was one hell of an experience, and I really dug both of these movies. I've seen the first one several years ago, so I'll give a quick little recap and review of that one, but this will also be a spoiler video for Part 2, so if you have not seen it, a lot of reviews have already come out that are already non-spoiler, so I just wanted to get my thoughts about it because I really want to talk about this movie. So let's just jump right into A Quiet Place Part 1 and Part 2. So for a quick little review of Part 1, I just want to talk about how much I just adore that movie in terms of how simple it is. It's a very concise and tightened movie at its short hour-and-a-half runtime, and John Krasinski really knows how to build suspense in that film and how concise it is with it being one location and this set amount of characters and having it just flow so seamlessly. He really understands how to build suspense because that entire movie is just constant winding of suspense. Yes, there's a couple cheap jump scares here and there with the raccoons or a hand reaching out from a tractor and scaring the audience or whatever, but it's a very extremely well made character story as well as a horror movie, because I've always believed, in John Krasinski in an interview kind of said a similar thing where I do believe that horror is the best genre to get certain emotions, to get certain character arcs, through with a movie. Horror is a great genre to do those sort of things, and John Krasinski, being new to horror himself, really understood that, watching all these different references and all these different films that he used as inspiration for the first movie. It's a very concise and tightened movie that is just filled with suspense, and I can say all those same things about this new one. John Krasinski does a great job at flowing from the first one to the second one. This honestly does feel like one giant 3-hour-long movie, especially when you watch them back to back, and I really appreciated how seamless it was. And this is just such a great world to live in, because if you take a movie and you have dialogue be not a part of it because it's part of the plot where these characters literally cannot talk or else they will die, so it's very heavily relied on visual storytelling. And that's another thing that John Krasinski really masters in the first one and continues on in the second one. This is, grade A type stuff here in this, visual storytelling. He really trusts the audience to understand every little detail, which I'll get into, some aspects of the plot in the second one that really work for me, and how Krasinski as a filmmaker really trusts us as an audience to understand everything that's happening because of how well he's doing the visual storytelling of both of these films. And I will say my biggest issue with the second one, if I were to, nitpick and have an issue with it, is that it doesn't flow as seamlessly as the first one. The first one really does feel like one concise movie at the beginning, middle, and end, and it just flows and suspense is throughout the entire thing, and it's just like one really nice tight package, whereas the second one, it is a very nice tight package. There's not a single moment wasted in this film, but there's a lot more downtime in between the beginning, middle, and end, and not downtime in terms of like boring stuff. It's all character stuff, but it's not constant winding tension like the first movie. And so let's just get into, let's go through the movie in order. So this movie starts off with the prologue, which again, watching the first movie and the second movie back to back, at the end of the first one, how, high you end off that movie, and to start off and see day one right after that point actually works extremely well. And to see the things that happen on day one with it starting, the kid is just at a baseball game and you see this, meteor flying through the sky, and you get introduced to the characters that you meet later on in this movie, and you get all these different little pieces, and you get to see the chaos, the pure chaos that happens on day one. And this is a small town. It's just like one street, a bunch of small shops, it's a baseball game, there's a bunch of families there, and things escalate extremely quickly in this opening scene. And again, with tension, with John Krasinski does a great job at building that and building the suspense, because we know what the world is. We know after the first one, you have to be quiet, you can't make any noise. And when you have this opening scene and you hear somebody talking on the phone with their mom, you're like, you need to stop talking, and we know what's going to happen, but the characters don't understand that yet. And to see them learn and to see how smart this family is that we followed, the Abbott family that we followed throughout the first movie, and how they survived it in the beginning of this movie, was extremely entertaining to see them, maneuver and learn, and see John Krasinski figure these things out and try to help other people. And you really get to see more of his character and what he really means to his family, and his entire character arc within the first one leads into Regan's storyline storyline in the second one. So to see this at the very beginning really helped tie everything together, and you cut right into, you know, the aftermath of the first one. This one takes place almost immediately after you even hear the shotgun, you know, getting loaded at the end of the first one at the beginning of this one once it kicks off after the prologue, after the title sequence. And this is where I'm saying that this movie doesn't constantly flow the tension, because it has a very nail-biting opening sequence. And at the end of the first one, I will say, you know, all these different monsters are running through the, you know, the grass and everything, and you think that all these creatures are going straight towards the farm at the end of the first one, and so you would think that this movie would start off with some big clash right at the beginning with all these characters, you know, trying to survive all these different monsters coming directly towards them, but that's not what happened. The movie starts off a little bit quieter than I was quite expecting. Yes, you have the very riveting opening sequence, but then it kind of slows down, and this is what I'm talking about. This happens several times throughout the movie, and not that this is necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of jarring to see the ending of the first one and the beginning of this one and be like, okay, I wasn't quite expecting this. But again, it doesn't really matter, because you get to see this quieter moment and build tension right from there, because they essentially leave the farm immediately and go towards Cillian Murphy's, you know, hideout area. They get a map and they figure out how to get there. They get their supplies, they get the box for the baby, they get a radio, they get, you know, the little headset that is the weakness of these creatures. They get everything prepared off for the journey forwards, and, you know, they find this place. And the first thing about this movie that genuinely really shocked me, which I think everybody that I watched this with all agreed that this was one of the most, you know, craziest moments in this entire movie, happens right at the beginning, is when the kid steps into the bear trap. And that moment, which is like, I covered my face at that, not my eyes, but I covered my mouth at that point in just awe, because I was like, oh my gosh, this movie is just like, and he's just screaming, and you know the world, and you know the rules that they set up in this world, and you're like, crap, this is not gonna go well. And from here on out, this entire sequence, this entire opening sequence of them meeting, you know, Cillian Murphy's character, and, you know, going to this bunker and finding this other place, that seeing how he survived this essentially in this room, which again, with John Krasinski learning how to, you know, trust the audience in terms of these movies, you get to see that he sets a timer as soon as they get into this little chamber, I guess I would call it, this little safe chamber that is completely soundproof. You can't hear anything out of it. You see him put the blanket over the lock, and you see the lock go down and doesn't completely lock them in there, and he sets a timer, and once that beeps, he opens it out and to let oxygen in, essentially. And none of this is explained in the movie. You all see that visually, and this is very important to the entire plot of the movie with certain characters. With, you know, the kid and Emily Blunt's character, this is integral to their entire storyline in the movie, and not a single moment of it is explained. And this is why I love John Krasinski directing these movies so much, because he trusts the audience. In a lesser director, they would say, oh, we only have a certain amount of time here to breathe, or else the oxygen is going to run out. And it's this very simple, short line. But the fact that they don't say that means so much to me in terms of John Krasinski as a director. And again, I will say there's a little bit of a downtime period here, but you get introduced to Cillian Murphy's character, with him really being against saving people because of all the loss that he's dealt with, all these different heartaches and all these different troubles that he's dealt with, the way that he had to survive all this time. You get to see him really, he has lost his humanity essentially at this point, and seeing the Abbott family come back, and he recognized them from before everything went to hell, and he has lost all hope. And you can tell in his eyes, because, you know, he's wearing a mask at first, you can just tell with the look on his face that he has lost everything, and he doesn't have hope anymore. And this begins his character arc, and I think this moment really begins the story, because Millicent Simmonds' character hears this song on the radio, Beyond the Sea, and she thinks that maybe this means something more than it just being a song playing constantly on the radio and it being stuck in a loop, because she starts to think about it, because, you know, again, she's a very smart character, and this character is essentially the star of this movie, which I really enjoyed. Yes, Cillian Murphy's on the ride with her the entire time, but she is the brains of the operation, and this movie really does focus on the kids a lot. Emily Blunt and Cillian Murphy both take a back seat to see Millicent Simmonds run this movie along with Noah Jupe, in both very, very entertaining roles. And these kid actors, again, let me praise John Krasinski one more time for getting these performances out of these kids, especially Millicent Simmonds, who is deaf in real life, and her performance in this movie just blew me away from the beginning to the end. She was phenomenal in this movie, but she hears this thing on the radio and thinks, if we can get to this and play my, you know, use my headpiece to play that sound over this frequency, and so everybody can use this to fight off against these creatures, we can help a lot of people. And you get to see, you know, Cillian Murphy's character really fight against that, because he doesn't believe anybody is worth saving. He doesn't believe because he tried so hard, but nothing, it wasn't enough to save his wife and to save his kids. He never, all the things that he tried was never enough. And so his character arc beginning with this moments of her wanting to save all these people because she is similar to her dad and because he has been so torn around from this world, those two characters were my favorite in this entire movie. And you have Emily Blunt's character trying to get another oxygen tank for the baby, and Noah Jupe's character is stuck essentially at this little, bunker area with the baby, and he has to, try to survive this situation that he gets himself into with a really messed up leg. And again, with that little chamber, when he gets locked in that chamber, my God, that's one of my favorite sequences in this entire movie. The entire middle section of this film really is separated. All the characters are separated. So you have Millicent Simmonds and you have Cillian Murphy on their own. They're at these docks and they're sneaking around. They're trying to find a boat. And then you have Noah Jupe who gets locked in the little chamber with the baby with no oxygen or very, very little oxygen left in the tank. And again, you get to see that lock. He didn't put the blanket over because the creature was coming. And you just know they're running out of oxygen. Again, no exposition for any of this at all. It's just all visual storytelling. This is wonderful stuff here. And you get Emily Blunt's character trying to fight off that creature and trying to get to Noah Jupe's character who is in that chamber. And all this is happening at the same time as, Millicent Simmonds and you get Cillian Murphy dealing with this cult of survivors, essentially. These people at the docks who are, again, they don't say a word, but you know everything that they're about. Those are the type of people that really changed and were hardened by this world and were damaged by this world trying to survive. And these are the people that were not worth saving in the eyes of Cillian Murphy. So you get to see that side of things. You get to see in a way that he was right in not trying to help these people because they really try to screw them over. But there's a wonderful moment with the whole diving sign language, hand motion or whatever you want to call it. That moment where he tells her to dive. Again, no dialogue in this at all, but this entire sequence of all three of those things happening at the same time was very, very well crafted because it could feel very bouncy. Again, with a lesser director, it could feel very jarring going back and forth between all these things, but all of them built up with tension all together simultaneously, and they all hit their peak at the same moment, and it was just pure tension. But we do get another calm point after this point because they get into the boat, they go to the island, and you don't really get to see Emily Blunt and Noah Jupe for a while. They're kind of just in their little chamber. They have a little bit more oxygen left, but the focus really is on this island and all these people that are there that are living normally because apparently the creatures cannot swim, which kind of reminds me a little bit of Signs from M. Night Shyamalan, and I guess this is kind of a little convenience, You saw them in the first one, which I thought this was going to be a cool, Jaws-like thing in the water with the boats, but unfortunately it was not that. But you get to see in the first movie, the creature, dip down into the water when she's in the little basement area, and I guess he wasn't technically swimming because I guess it was low enough to the ground where it was just kind of underneath the water, but they can't swim apparently, so that's a weakness of theirs as well. But they get to this island, they get to see all these people that has just been living there normally, and that song Beyond the Sea was to lure people into this island for safety. And that was, again, it's a very smart thing. I feel like for any zombie movie, if you're on an island, you're essentially safe. You just need to seclude yourself away from the mainland and you're good, and that's essentially what it was in this film as well. But of course, you get one of these creatures on the boat that escapes onto this island, wreaking havoc, and you get the finale of this movie, which is again another tense sequence where you get a back and forth between the stuff happening on the island and the stuff happening back at home base with Emily Blunt and Noah Jupe. And the tension John Krasinski is able to get, because this is, it's a sprawling adventure. You get to have all these different locations and you get to see the world from Millicent Simmonds and Cillian Murphy's point of view, but then you're all in one location in this confined area, this claustrophobic chamber with the other characters. And to balance these two things together, again, John Krasinski did a wonderful job at building those suspense. Yes, you get downtime in between all those sections. So you have, the prologue, then you have, the middle section where everybody is separated, and then you have this ending sequence. You have those three areas of tension and downtime between all of them, and in those downtime, again, you get great character stuff with Cillian Murphy, especially with him finding all these people living their lives and thinking that there was something worth saving. There was, a reason for him to go out and try to help other people, because not everybody was like those dog people, which I forgot to mention. Those people really reminded me of Lost. I don't know why that entire sequence reminded me of Lost. And this little, it's situation on the island, this, group of people, does again remind me of Lost, Dharmaville. It had that tone and feeling throughout this movie, which I did enjoy. But you get this wonderful moment with Cillian Murphy and Djimon Hounsou, who is in this movie briefly, but this conversation where he says no, or they're talking about how the Beyond the Sea song, it was worked. It got him to go there, but he didn't go there looking for help. He went there trying to help other people, which is a great character arc from him going to not thinking anybody's worth saving to having that conversation with Millicent Simmonds' character of, you weren't trying enough. This is your chance to really try the most you can, and to have this intense sequence where they're trying to get to the radio station. They have this one creature on their tail, then you have Emily Blunt and Noah Jupe. They have this one creature on their tail, and they have the chambers being broken into. They're out of oxygen, they're losing all these things, and they need this radio, they need this sound to go across the frequency, and they get it by the end of it in a very tense sequence where everybody hurts their legs. You get Emily Blunt stabbed in the leg by this creature, you get Cillian Murphy hurt in the leg by this creature, you get Noah Jupe, who got hit with a bear trap at the beginning of this movie with his leg, and everybody's hurting their leg, but again with tension sequences with Millicent Simmonds stepping on this desk, and you see all these things that could fall and ruin their entire plan. You just get to see them build and build and build to this finale that was very satisfying because, again, character arcs. You get Millicent Simmonds, who went from, at the very beginning of the first movie, being so distanced from her father, not realizing that love that he had for her, and finding that out at the end of the first movie. And in this movie, she starts off with so much love and respect for her dad, and by the end of it realizing that it's because she is so similar, and that's why they butted heads so much, and she is, essentially the one who is going to bring on his legacy. She was so much like her father, and that meant so much to her. And then you get Noah Jupe's character, who was just he was so afraid to go on the little journey in the first movie with his dad, and then in this movie he's really afraid to, he's afraid to be alone with baby, he's afraid to step up and do these things, he's afraid of his sister to go out to try to help these people, he's afraid of everything. And by the end of the movie, with him standing up with the radio frequency and shooting the creature by the end of it, that is such a great character arc. If anything, Emily Blunt had the least to do in this movie. Yes, she went back in the pharmacy and got some stuff, and she blew up one of the creatures, and in this awesome sequence with a little gas canister, and that didn't work, but it did what she needed it to do. It started the sprinkler system and created noise to block out the sound so she can get to Noah Jupe's character. That was a fun sequence in and of itself, but she had the least to do. The kids really stole the show, and Cillian Murphy really did a great job, and this movie was extremely well directed. And yes, it didn't flow as perfectly as the first movie. It had some downtime, but those downtimes were never wasted because of the character moments. And so this is a movie that I very much enjoy. I'm sure I missed something. Both these movies are great to watch back to back. It's really one giant 3-hour movie, and I cannot wait to watch it again in that capacity. I think, yes, I'll go see A Quiet Place Part 2 again on its own, because it does stand alone in terms of itself. It has a direct ending. It's not a cliffhanger ending like the first one, so they could easily make more of these movies, and I would very much like them to make more of these movies. But if you just watch these both as one giant 3-hour movie, you're in for a ride. So thanks guys for watching this review. Comment down below what you thought of A Quiet Place Part 2. Did you guys enjoy it as much as I did? I think I still like the first one better, mainly because it's just so one compact, tight piece of horror cinema that is just wonderful. But this movie, John Krasinski did a great job at making a sequel that was definitely worth the wait and definitely worthy of the first one. So thanks guys for watching this video. I will have a review out for Cruella very soon. I really hope I get a chance to see that as soon as I can. I might have to get it on Disney Plus and not see it in theaters, unfortunately, but I cannot wait to do all those things. So thanks guys for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.